This week on Jersey Matters, 2 more forest fires raged in New Jersey this week. We'll talk with the New Jersey Fire Warden about the state response. There are more black bears roaming New Jersey looking for food than we've seen in a long time. And the head of the New Jersey Fish and Game Council wants to bring back the bear hunt. The CDC lifts the mask mandate for the vaccinated, but Phil Murphy says, not here, and a lot of people aren't happy about it. And you'll meet a New Jersey man who has spent a good deal of his adult life trying to find Adam Sandler again. Hello and welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. This week, 2 more wildfires in New Jersey scorched 1,500 acres and threatened nearby homes. Here's my interview with New Jersey State Fire Warden Greg McLaughlin.
It seems like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, we've had 3 sizable wildfires now in the last couple of months. Is there reason for concern?
Well, yeah, there's definitely reason for concern, Larry. Wildfire season in New Jersey peaks in the spring. Spring has seemed to start earlier each of the last few years. As early as late February, we've had some sizable fires. That happened again this year, where we had an early season fire in March. And it can continue, the wildfire season can continue into May and even June and July if we have conditions that are ripe for wildfires. And right now it's been very, very dry. There's been an absence of significant rainfall in a lot of areas throughout the state. So there's definitely reason for concern.
The fire in Vincenttown and the fire in Little Egg Harbor Township, are they under control now?
Yes, those are 100% contained and under control.
And then we had the fire in Brick as well back a couple of months ago. At the time, they came out and said that was deliberately set. Have we found out exactly what happened?
So Ocean County Prosecutor's Office, I met with them as recently as Sunday night, and they are still continuing that investigation. They have a long list of suspects that they need to go through. They are confident it was deliberately set, but at this time they have not concluded that investigation or charged anyone.
It's because of the good work of your department and because of the good work of local firefighters that these fires haven't been worse than they could have been. But if this were to continue, that streak may not continue. So you've put in phase 3 restrictions in place. Can you explain what that means?
Right. So as conditions, weather conditions, particularly right now, as I mentioned, drying continues, we want to minimize any ignition sources that could create a fire. So we have put in restrictions on campfires, agricultural burning, and essentially all other open fires. We're trying to minimize those ignition sources. We're trying to minimize the drain on our resources and effectively prevent fires from happening, because those are always the easiest ones to put out, right? The ones that never start.
Are we going in unprecedented times, or is this kind of normal, or where do we stand this year as opposed to past years?
Well, it's not unprecedented, but I think the factor that's important, and I'm glad you brought this up because we had this discussion this morning, is that typically when we see the deciduous vegetation, the oaks and the maples, and leaf out, they contain a lot of moisture. And they shade the forest floor, which is where all fires start. So we usually see a tendency for fire activity to drop off at this time of year. But we do have to look historically. If you look back to 1930, that was a May fire that was one of the most devastating fires in history. If you look back to the Warren Grove fire that started from the Warren Grove bombing range in 1997 that burned, 2007, that burned 15,000 acres. That was a middle of May fire. So I think what the message is that as we have those conditions, that drying, we can continue to have fires right through June.
But as of right now, we're still in the middle of this fire season. There's still
Yes.
a danger right now as we speak. Have we been lucky?
I think we've been really lucky. We were really lucky with our ability to respond quickly, to have resources available, to watch the weather, to increase our staffing, to, in fact, to that point, with the Lakewood brick fire that happened in the spring of the year, we look at what we feel are going to be the most crucial 30 to 40 days of the season based on historical fire activity. And we'll actually hire in from contractors. One of the contractors brings planes in from Florida and he stations them here in New Jersey so we can add to our capabilities for response and quick response. And we weren't going to have those planes on in March when that Lakewood fire occurred because it was still what we consider to be a little bit early season. But as we were looking at the weather conditions that were lining up, we called those planes in early for that weekend. And we were lucky to make that call and to do that, to have those extra resources, so to speak, available to us. And, you know, we've been lucky also in the sense that we have really good cooperation from our local partners. So when we're out there trying to manage and control where this fire is going and where we don't want it to go, right? Because the strategy and the philosophy with wildfire fighting is a lot different than structural firefighting. Structural firefighting, the goal is to get that fire out as quickly as possible. And while we want to get that wildfire out, we want to first determine, based on the weather and the vegetation and, you know, the structures that may be threatened, how do we want to force the fire away from improved property and other values at risk. So we attempt to try to manage the direction of that fire, and we leave the protection of those homes to those locals. And that gives us the confidence in knowing we can do what we need to do. And the other night, there was a local fire company from Little Egg Harbor, from Bass River, from New Gretna, from Barnegat, Forkett River at every single house. And so they're ready that if one ember, you know, lands in somebody's roof or somebody's gutter or somebody's vegetation or mulch, they're ready to take care of that. And so in the bigger sense, we're lucky we have that available to us.
Is there anything, as we finish this, is there anything that you want to tell New Jerseyans or people visiting New Jersey that visit our forest, how they should be behaving?
Most of the fires, 99% of the fires, are started by people, right? And it's not always intentional, but it becomes a matter of carelessness and not knowing the conditions. You know, get out and enjoy the outdoors of New Jersey, because we have some really beautiful places for people to see, but to be really careful and aware of what the conditions are.
Because that carelessness could ruin somebody's home or take their life.
Absolutely, and destroy a lot of forest property. And, you know, firefighters are putting themselves at risk, and so are other emergency responders.
As always, thank you so much for your time.
New Jersey State Fire Warden Greg McLaughlin. Still to come on Jersey Matters, many New Jersey restaurants can't get employees to come back to work, but one well-known New Jersey restaurateur found a solution. We'll talk with him next.